I'm proud of what we've done with the Burleson Opportunity Fund. I can tell you I have found one other city in America, one other city, that believes in investing its economic development resources in its kids. And so when we created the Opportunity Fund as a partnership in our business community and said we're going to take just a small percentage of our 4A funds, a tiny percentage. If we can take millions of dollars and invest them in corporations and developers and big department stores, people we've never met in our lives, if we can do that, then surely we can take a tiny percent of our resources and invest them in our own people. And we did. And so we're one of the first cities in America that cares about whether its high school students are able to transition into college. And by the way, we're not paying for them to go off to college anywhere. We're creating an incentive to stay home in Burleson and go to college here. And now I know a kid that's going to go to Baylor, Sic 'em Bears, is not going to, I know they're not going to decide to stay home. I know if you're an Aggie or a Longhorn, that you're going to go on. That's fine. But the other thing I know is that we have hundreds of kids every year in Burleson, Texas, that are going from their junior to their senior year, and they haven't given a thought one to where they're going to go to college, or if they're going to go to college. And I know we have a lot of kids that should be going on to school because they need to, because the jobs that are available out there now that give you the ability to support a family, they require higher education. That is true today, and it's going to be more true tomorrow, and even more true the day after that. And so I'm not concerned that we try to get everybody a 4-year degree. That's not reasonable. It's not rational. But what I do know is if we can take kids who otherwise aren't headed to college, and we can get them into a community college, then we are investing in their success. And I also know, that if we have an 18 to 24-year-old that never goes to college and sticks around here and they don't have a good job and they're not enrolled in school, I know what kind of things they're going to be up to. It ain't going to be good. At least a percentage of them. And so if we can take that population and we can get most of them into school, and we got a group of 18 to 24-year-olds that are enrolled in school and beginning good careers, instead of walking around up to no, I mean, that makes a big difference. That's a big difference in public safety. And the other thing I know is that if we invest in higher education, it's going to pay huge dividends in economic development. Do you know what a big deal it is today? What we've been able to do today is create a college campus in the middle of Old Town. We didn't have that before. If you remember, 10 years ago, we didn't have higher education in Burleson. Today, we have a campus with Hill College and Texas Wesleyan, and we got 300 to 400 students every semester that are going to school all day into the night on that campus. You think that's not good for the economy of Old Town? You think that's not creating jobs in Old Town? You think it doesn't create a workforce for the service industry that is so important to our economy and to our quality of life? That's a smart thing to do. Now here's the good news. We went on a fact-finding trip to Kingsport, Tennessee. That's the other city in America I know about that invests its economic development resources in higher education. And they do a really smart thing. They do their scholarship as a last dollar. So they have their recipients have to apply for the FAFSA program, and everything that they achieve, that they earn or are eligible for through financial aid gets applied first, and then their program pays the last dollar to make the difference. And by doing that, they're able to stretch it a lot further. Well, we've always asked our Opportunity Fund students to fill out the FAFSA, required them to, and now we need to make that next transition. And we need to take those FAFSA, those higher education financial aid dollars, apply them towards the tuition, let our dollar be the last dollar, and instead of having 30 or 40 kids a year that qualify, we might have 60 or 70 or more, and instead of being able to pay for 1 year's education like we do now, we can get kids through 2 years. And we can do that, I believe, without adding a cent to our commitment to the Burleson Opportunity Fund. Roger, the other thing I think we can do is that we can expand higher education in Burleson. Today, we are limited to this 2-year program, and it's not even a comprehensive program because they can't offer labs and things like that on the campus they have. We're limited in enrollment because of the size of the campus, and Texas Wesleyan is only able to offer programs in one course area. But I think we can partner with institutions of higher learning. We can partner with the development community. We can leverage other dollars available in other places, and we can take revenue that's generated today in Burleson through our Old Town TIF that we don't have dedicated to anything, and we can devote those resources toward expanding higher education. We could build a real campus in Burleson with our partners that the city is not responsible for maintaining and funding from year to year, and we can have a real 4-year and beyond higher education program in the city of Burleson, where we have, instead of 300 to 400 students, 2,000 to 3,000 students that are earning their degrees, whether it's an associate's degree, a technical certification, a bachelor's degree, or a graduate degree. Imagine if you could do that in Burleson. I believe we can do that, and I believe we can do it in the near future. And so what I'm proposing is this: that as part of our economic development strategy, we pay it forward even more. And we recognize that there's no better investment you can make than in human capital. And I'm not talking about giving people handouts and money. I'm talking about building the infrastructure to support higher education in Burleson, taking the opportunity fund that we have now, stretching it to its maximum capacity. And I'm telling you that this would be a community where we could look every child in the eye as they go to kindergarten and say, young man or young woman, you get to go to college someday if you stay in Burleson. And we can look in the eye of every parent that's walking their kindergartner into class on that first day of school and say, you listen to this young man or this young woman, they get to go to college someday. You remember that, and when you look at them, you think of them as college bound. And we can say to every teacher, every kindergarten teacher, every first grader, second grader, all the way through high school, when your student walks through the door, you need to look at them and you need to know that kid gets to go to college someday. And if we look at all of our students and we see that kind of future for them, how does that change our expectations for our own kids? How does that change our teachers' expectations for our kids? How does that change parents' expectations? And how does that change our kids' expectations for themselves? If we were a community that could do that, and if we were known around the country as the community that invests in its own people, that cares that much about higher education, there is nothing in the world that can stop us. And I can promise you this, that when we go out and we seek people, companies, to build large employment bases in South Burleson and High Point Business Park, I know what the first question they're going to ask me is, because I've been asked 100 times at economic development shows, and that is, do you have the workforce I need in Burleson? I promise you that's the first question that gets asked. And they don't want to know just do we have the live bodies, they want to know if they're qualified. And if I can describe to them this effort we have to ensure that everyone has access to higher education, and I can say, and I'll tell you this, if you need 100 Class A welders, guess what we can do? We can train them. And if you need 50 nurses, guess what we can do? We can train them. And guess what you can do? You can help us. You can partner with the Burleson Opportunity Fund, and you can create specific scholarships for nurses. Whatever it is you need, we can make it happen in the city of Burleson in terms of the workforce. I can promise you that there is nothing that we can do in terms of economic development that would be more important.